fashion and the way I present myself and what I decide and choose to wear is really important, because that's the first thing that people see when they meet you. It's the first impression that people get when they meet you.
Fashion is self-expression, it's empowerment, and it's literally the costume you wear to shout to the rooftops and to the world who you are.
Fashion was, in fact, rather like a painter's palette that you could dip into and go, oh, this a little bit and that a little bit, and make this part of your body smaller, like that you could consciously do that. It was huge for me.
I love seeing brilliant fashion. I love seeing forward-thinking, out-of-the-box fashion. It's so clever.
Fashion was always a huge part of my identity, of my expression.
At the moment, I'm really into King Charles II, had all that fabulous curly long hair. It was a wig, but you know, he had all this fabulous hair. I think I want to have fabulous hair, you know.
Clothing very early on for me was one of the most important places for me to play and resist and protest.
My sexuality and clothing, they really were very connected.
All queer people start to basically forecast who they are early on through what they're wearing.
That queer and also the color and the rainbow element and that bright color, I feel like is definitely has a very LGBT kind of identity.
I don't hide any of my queerness in my artwork or my t-shirts.
I would wear the rainbow triangle, and not many people knew what that was, and so it was like a way of being out without being out. That was like my way of saying, you know, hi, I'm gay, and anybody else in this town?
Yeah, so school, you know, for me was very repressive, but then any opportunity out of that, I would definitely use a way to express my sexuality through clothing. I always felt different, and I was always very, I was bullied anyway, so that for a start made me feel different. But I sort of escape into my own kind of fantasy world. And
even as a young child, I really didn't know if I was a boy or a girl. It was something that I felt really comfortable not knowing. And what was very painful is that other people wanted me to know and wanted me to conform.
I always wanted to be on the other side of the aisle, standing in the boys' department. I always wanted to be in the girls' department. And I would beg my mother at every department store we would go to the girls' department and try on their clothes.
I kind of wouldn't accept what I knew in my heart. And when I started to perform, I saw myself, and I started to kind of not wear boys' clothes anymore.
It was my way out to dress up, and it was my escape and my way that I got to express myself, because I was closeted, and I wasn't closeted, but it was wrong for me to be gay in this small town that I grew up in, and to my family it was wrong for me to be gay.
I know I don't give a shit about what I wear and how people perceive me. I'm going to be as dramatic as I want to be, or not dramatic when I don't want to be. And that's, let people perceive it or perceive me how they want. You know, I am an openly gay man.
Gay men see differently, you know, especially artists. We see the beauty in the world, and we see the ugliness too.
Any inkling of homosexuality, the first instinct is to destroy it. So like, you know, like it's a disease and it's going to spread.
I felt so bad about saying that I was gay, and I had this inner turmoil. And
when I was about 8, and my mother said, you can't run around without your shirt on anymore. And I have a brother who's just a year older, and he could. And there was something so shocking about that, and so violent. And it was a wound that I carried for many, many years. Whatever I was somehow shameful or needed to be covered, and whatever he was okay, and there was something very shocking about that as a child.
I think I always hated my face, because I always thought it was so plain and white and unattractive. So at a young age, I always used to paint my face. You know, when I went to college, I was always wearing a dress from nostalgia from the store.
You know, I was 9 years old, and I remember I had taken a bath, and I came out of the bath and I wrapped a towel around myself, and I was imitating somebody, like Carmen Miranda or something. And my older sister was 6 years older than me. She came by and she went, if you continue doing that, you're going to turn into a sissy. And I was petrified because I knew sissy was bad. Sissy meant you were homosexual, you were queer. And that moment changed my life, because from that moment on I became very conscious of how I presented myself as a boy. I made sure I had no feminine traits. There was a test we would do in school, and they would say, like, show us your hands. And if you went like this, you were feminine, and if you went like this, you were masculine. So I practiced all this.
In the 70s, gay men wore this olive bomber jacket to make their chest bigger, because that was the look. And subconsciously, I was channeling that.
The clothing was hysterical. Everyone had Nick shirts, nylon, the new rayon, every different color. The bell bottoms were there.
This was the time when everybody was wearing everything. It was kind of the time of like delight and platform shoes.
The East Village was kind of that safe space, especially for girls. Whether you were a punk or you were more a fashion girl or more underground, you know, you could express yourself and not be really judged, not be really attacked as much.
We also found that the older generation didn't understand us. They didn't understand how we could be so free, how we could be so open. We could laugh, we could giggle, we could act like butch, we could act like femmes. Nobody really cared. We didn't really take into the sensibilities of the older generation. They'd been in the closet. This is terribly new for them. Many of them were scared. Many of them didn't even talk to us. They were very much aloof. They didn't want to associate with a known homosexual.
See, thinking about incidents in my life, I'm going, oh yeah, AIDS was going on, and it was a disease you would die from without any kind of, you know, there was no like, gee, maybe you could get a drug. You were gonna die. So I do think that probably wanting to look really strong and masculine was something that was even more important then.
What were gay men wearing before the AIDS crisis? What was the uniform then? How can I take that and make it into something that is relevant today?
When I did join ACT UP in the 80s and 90s, we were constantly protesting, and we always needed, and I still have my whistle on my ball chain. It also reminds me of a rosary bead, and so many of us lost our loved ones in those years that I feel like each of these balls is a remembrance of a friend or a moment, and so I carry that with me, and it keeps it very real for me.
They called me Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan, a little, you know, limp in the wrist or whatever they would say. And I was going to FIT, the Fashion Institute of Technology. And ironically, as I moved up and got more attention for my work and became an artist in resident for Christian Dior, the tides turned a little bit, and people respect me now. You know, there's a respect for what I do.
It's always fascinated me that there hadn't been more study on queer influence in the arts and in fashion, when in fact those industries are basically run by queer folks.
They like inspired me to really just express myself however I wanted to. There was no judgment, nobody cared. They were like, this is awesome. They want to push you to be as if you want to be.
I learned later in life that you have to fight to get what you want. You have to fight even harder when you're a gay man or a gay woman.
Seeing around me who runs the fashion world, and they're all like, of course, like beautiful, very rich people. I didn't really necessarily see my place in fashion.
He's a bit outside the norm, like I was outside the norm and am outside the norm. And oddly, even though I didn't know him, I had a sense of pride in seeing him. So fast forward a semester later, he was on my roster as my student. And the rest, as they say, is history. And we've developed this really, really lovely relationship as student and teacher. And everything that I felt when I saw him came to light when I got to know him. And he's a brilliant designer and a wonderful person.
You're gonna make me cry. Can I hug you? Thank you. That was really sweet.
It just makes me feel powerful to choose how I look and to represent how I feel on the inside.
Every day I get up and I don't know who I'm going to be. I don't really know what You know, I'm expanding all the time, I'm experimenting all the time, and I feel that New York and FIT are wonderful places in which to do that.